What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hollywood Already Did It, your weekly movie podcast about things that have been rebooted, remade, sequelized, adapted, or otherwise not the first in its franchise. As always, I am your host, Blake Schultz. With me is my co-host, Terrence Tatum.
Hello, everyone.
And joining us again is Greg Hahn. Hello, Greg.
Hey, what's going on?
Not much. How are you doing? We're on week 7 of social distancing. It's been 2 months now, so
Yeah, about 2 months. Yeah. Go ahead.
Right. So again, apologies to our listeners if there's audio hiccups. We're all social distancing as much as things get relaxed. I'm not relaxed yet. So
Far from relaxed. We're at the install a bidet stage of social distancing, where I think we're just going to start pimping out our toilet because it's one of the few things that can, you can really bring us some joy. I just installed a bidet literally like right before this call.
That's fantastic.
It nearly shot me. Like I turned it on the lowest setting and it fired across the room. It's a super bidet. I don't know if I'm ready to test it.
You ready to
my important bits, but the wife was adamant.
For all the weird things to come out of COVID-19 and social distancing has been the conversation around bidets. Like that's been the one thing that I did not hear anything about until this, when suddenly half the people I knew were like, well, you don't have a bidet?
Well, I mean, with all the toilet paper shortages, it's
right. The way to we don't need the toilet paper. We can just do it. It's the self-cleaning mechanism we can use. Fine.
Yeah, we'll just put a robot under our asshole too. Let them see what happens. Great.
I was like, and there's a lot of things to that. And then you start asking the questions you never thought you would of like, well, you still need to dry off with the bidet. There's still a
theoretically less TP.
Yeah. That's what my understanding is.
Yes. Unless you're a savage. You just gotta like
throw it back on and go.
Yeah, keep dabbing, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know the protocol.
There's a lot of definitions of dab nowadays.
Right.
Anyways,
we are here today to talk about another of the theater at home, new releases on demand, the whole new weird normal of releasing movies in a unique way. Scoob, released by Warner Brothers this week, originally intended for a theatrical release, but obviously theaters are closed, and they want that Trolls money, man. They want it bad. So we'll see if this one continues with the pinnacle of kids need something to do and they will just ask their parents for things and the parents will hit the button for 2 hours of peace. And 30-year-old adults like me will go, I liked that cartoon, and buy it for $25.
Was it that much?
Yeah, it was like rent for 20 or buy for 25. And for whatever reason, that $5 difference, I just said, it just give it to me.
Right.
Who knows?
That's an expensive rental. Is that just what they're doing right now with just kind of these movies that are getting directly released rather than, originally intended for theaters? So drop it somewhere and charge a full 2 tickets of cash?
Yeah, and it's such an interesting thing, right? Because you look at like ticket prices here in California where it is $20 to see something, $25 in IMAX, unless you have AMC A-List or any of the other things. But if you do get to like middle America where it is still $8, $9, $10 to see a movie on average, what you're really doing is the price of a Blu-ray. And you're suddenly sort of asking this weird question of, if it's at home, do I want to own it? But I do also have all these streaming options, like Onward just showed up early.
Yeah.
Rise of Skywalker showed up early. Like everyone's kind of trying to figure out how to keep this moving in a unique way. But I mean, after Trolls made all that money hand over fist, I'm not surprised that Warner Brothers said, me too. and just went for it.
I mean, I think I get what Greg though, because like $20 for a rental that's a high price, and $5 more. Like, yeah, it's only $5 more if I own it, but I don't know. I mean, granted, if I were a parent with multiple kids and I'm like, I need you to shut the hell up for a while, $20 probably doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But for me as a person who just like owns or rents or streams videos, $20 is a lot to put on something that I don't know what I'm getting out of.
Yeah, I do kind of see like the, 10, $15 for the one viewing,
Right.
maybe, and then 25 for because to own it. There's that disparity makes sense. $20, I mean, they were basically saying buy this. You're buying
Right.
this now.
Pretty much.
That was what they put the fishing line out there, and you're like, well, what the hell's the difference? Here's another $5, and they're like, we got him.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because all of a sudden my voodoo is getting full of things that I would never have bought before. Like
Exactly.
I now own the Mortal Kombat animated movie and Justice League Apocalypse.
How is my buddy Jeremy wrote the Mortal Kombat movie? How is it? I haven't seen it.
It's
It's a
amazing.
delight. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, we should have had you guys on for that episode. We loved it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I
want
definitely
more.
am gonna check that out.
Oh yeah, it's definitely one of those ones that wrapped up, and I immediately thought, I want so much more of this. I want Warner Brothers Animation to now do what they're doing with Injustice and Mortal Kombat in the video games, where it's like we just alternate which one we're getting. I get a hardcore Justice League movie, and then I get an R-rated animated Mortal Kombat, and then we bounce back to Justice League and then Mortal Kombat.
I mean, Mortal Kombat should always be R-rated. I think that's the ticket every time around. It's like, yeah, those movies were fun in the 90s, but they weren't good, and it wasn't what we wanted. It was like a taste of what we wanted.
Yeah,
I mean, I've seen some cutscenes like this is violence. This is what that bloodthirsty stuff that you want out of Mortal Kombat.
And it's really built into the DNA of that franchise. That was the first, I think it was the first big video game controversy of look at this hyper violent game the kids can play, and the fatalities and the brutalities and all these other alities that they had were really, if you reduce that down, you're kind of missing the point. It's like a PG Punisher. I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of that appeal.
Yeah, for sure.
But Scoob does not need to be R-rated. So what did you guys think? We'll kick it to Greg first for some general thoughts and feelings.
General thoughts. I think generally speaking, this movie, what my favorite stuff about this movie is that it pays homage to like the Hanna-Barbera library, and it really there's stuff there for fans of the franchise, and then there's stuff there for kids. Like it's got both sides of it. So I think in general, it kind of does everything it was intending to do. Did I love the story entirely? No, I thought it was kind of generic, honestly. But like the characters, they really like had a lot of fun with them. The Blue Falcon and Dynamite, and we're gonna get into it, I'm sure. But there's gonna be spoilers here, right, guys? Because
yes.
Yeah, okay. Because I don't know what's exactly featured in the trailer. Dick
Not
Dastardly, is he a secret?
He was shown. It's actually funny you bring that up because my first sort of thought around this movie was that it looked bad. And then I saw a Twitter ad that had Dick Dastardly in it, and I immediately went, oh, is this actually supposed to be a launch point for all of the Hanna-Barbera characters? Because if that's what we're doing, I'm in.
Cool. Yeah.
If you're just giving me this weird origin story that's not really a mystery or horror, I don't want to do that. But if this is more of a like Iron Man setup for a bigger world, let's do that.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I did love the fact that it was the Hanna-Barbera's greatest hits. Like we get Captain Caveman, like you see a bunch of stuff. It's like I was not expecting to see all of that in this one film. As a person who loved the old school Scooby-Doo's like pup named Scooby, like the before credit part of this movie, I absolutely adored with Shaggy kind of by himself, that part, and then seeing them their first time meeting and going through their experience, like, oh, this is Scooby-Doo. Immediately after the credits stopped, it sort of stopped being that for me, and I still enjoyed the ride, but it wasn't the Scooby-Doo that it became an adventure more so than a mystery thing. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll accept that because I'm still here with these characters, but you kind of bait and switched me from what I thought I was getting from a Scooby-Doo type of experience. So like, all right, cool, this is fine. I'm still in it. Some things I like, some things I love, some things I don't like. But overall, I had a good time.
Yeah, based spinning off of that, Terrence, it kind of felt like there was a lot of stuff for everybody, but also the trailers kind of misled you a little bit. I think they misled me. What I thought it was going to be more about them being kids and the origin story of Scooby Doo, and that was there in the very beginning. But then it was like, no, this is actually just this is a movie about the whole gang, which I don't think was a problem with the movie. I think they just kind of advertised it a little weirdly.
Correct.
Yeah, because the advertising really, really leaned on, I guess, the unfunny jokes, which is fine. But like the first big trailer joke was the Daphne and the mustache oil, and oh, is it my dad who's the villain? And it kind of just had this like feeling about it of modernizing these characters in a way that I really didn't want to do. Like I didn't really need a Prius mystery machine and seeing all of this. And I was kind of nervous because the movie, more than any other movie I've watched in my life, made me feel my age. Because when we introduced on Shaggy and he was listening to an iPod, I went, oh, so what? Are we going to have to cut to like 2035? Is this going to be in the futures so they can be adults and teenagers? And my roommate had to go, no, in 2000, you could now be a 20-year-old. And I just felt my hair, my heart sink. Like I was like, an iPod for a child? Ridiculous.
The movie opened with California Love, and I was like, oh my God, I'm that old now.
No, we are now old enough where California Love is to the kids what, like, I don't know, Big Yellow Taxi and 80s music was for us, or like Austin Powers music, where you're like, I know this.
Playing like Zombie or Cherry Poppin' Daddies or something. You're like, this is beyond old now.
Yeah.
But you mentioned a pup named Scooby Doo,
I love
I
that.
thought that was really I mean, I remember, I loved that show as a kid too. There's something about the Scooby universe where they're not exactly retconning anything, because I don't think there's a concrete there's no main canon of Scooby Doo. Right. There's just a number of versions of it. So I know that there's a tendency for a lot of people to watch this stuff and be like, that's not how it worked, because I watched a pup named Scooby Doo. But I think we can all agree that like it's fine. They reboot this stuff all the time. That's the purpose of your show.
Well, because it's a very simple cartoon, really, when you get down. And I love Scooby Doo, so I'm not disparaging that. But it is, here's the teenagers. They all have a trope to them. They go and they solve the mystery. We then kind of reinvented it in the 80s, and then we did a pup named Scooby Doo, I think in the 90s. And then we just sort of ran with that giant library forever. So even I kind of had to do that, because it's so easy now in any movie with that kind of legacy to get wrapped up in canon and fandom and nonsense. And every now and then I was like, well, is that really like, I don't think he just found him on a beach. Wasn't he like at a farm with all of his other like, and then part of my brain was like, no, don't do any of that. This isn't, you're not on Twitter debating Star Wars canon. It's just Scooby-Doo. Let him find him on the beach in Venice. None of it matters. It's a movie for children.
Yeah.
Animosity is okay, but I did love, though, speaking of the things for the fans, that it is all of these Hanna-Barbera greatest hits. I mean, when you even get into like the history of the Blue Falcon, that was the back half hour of the original like Scooby-Doo and Dynamite hour, where they would kind of cross over and interweave. So bringing that character back into light was fun, especially when it's one that I don't know super well and did kind of have to look up, but go, oh, well, he's been here. And they did give you the mystery in the beginning. And so I thought it was kind of clever, and I get it now when superheroes are everything, to then go, now it needs to be a big superhero adventure movie. So
yeah, it just felt like, it didn't feel like Scooby-Doo. It used the characters, it used the familiar faces, but it didn't feel like watching the ultimate Scooby-Doo experience, which is kind of what you expect out of a movie. The Scooby-Doo the movie should be like, what's the biggest caper yet? And it wasn't that. It was a superhero adventure and about friendship. guess what? Guess what Hollywood made? They made another one of those. It was
Yeah.
fine, but it had all of the delightful like appearances. Like we said, Blue Falcon and Dynamite, Dick Dastardly and Muttley are in it. Spoiler alert: Dick Dastardly shows up like early in the film, and then Muttley like, and you're just like, when is Muttley going to show up? And like, okay, good, they're doing it. There was a period where I was like, why does he have these stupid robots with him? Where's Muttley? This is dumb. And then he's crying over Muttley. You know, okay, all right, breathe a sigh of relief. It's gonna happen. Like,
Yeah.
there was literally a moment where I was like, they're not going to use Muttley. They're not going to do it. They're doing this just to hurt me.
I thought that they were going to kind of rip off the first live action Scooby-Doo, and we were going to get this like Muttley's in the robot, or he's the villain in the mask, and it's going to be a like, you left me in the big portal and now I'm this ghost engineering everything. But that's just not the genre this movie was.
No, not at all.
No.
But it even then hit on like really kind of weird parts of Scooby-Doo history. Like having Simon Cowell show up to me was kind of the perfect bridge point of when it used to be team ups with the Harlem Globetrotters or Batman or these
Batman,
other
yeah.
weird celebrities.
Mama Cass, yeah.
Yeah.
It's Dracula. I'm like, all right, sure.
Don Knotts.
They did animate Simon Cowell like realistically, and the rest of them like
Look like
cartoons.
animated versions. Yeah,
It was a little
weird.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But it was exactly an homage to those old guest spots that they would always do. And but you know, it could have been, I mean, Simon Cowell's fine, but you know, could have been somebody funnier. I think that aside, I don't know that we needed Will Forte to play Shaggy. And like, they kind of did the thing, and I know they do this every time, where they had to hire a bunch of celebrities to voice a bunch of the gang, right? Who is Zac Efron as Fred?
Yeah.
Right.
Doesn't add anything to the experience. Will Forte is Shaggy. Like, just use Matthew Lillard. We know the voice we want to hear come out of that character, and you still have them. And these people are getting paid extra because they're like, is anybody going to buy a ticket to this movie, Scooby-Doo the movie, because some other celebrity's name is also on it? You already know what you're getting into.
Especially the age range that they're going for. Like, Mark Wahlberg means something to us, but if you're doing a kids film, Mark Wahlberg means absolutely nothing to the kids that you're trying. So you can get anybody to play the Blue Falcon. You don't have to spend your top dollar to be like. And don't get me wrong, I love everything Mark Wahlberg is doing in this film, but it's unnecessary to put a star on that part.
Use voice actors. Use the talented voice actors that exist, because it could have been anybody. Like, if you didn't know that was Mark Wahlberg, you wouldn't have been like,
I didn't.
it wouldn't have made a
until I
difference.
looked up.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It took me a while to realize it was him. And really kind of all the voices, because that's the, you know, it's funny that you mentioned the old cast, because I feel like part of the reason this is animated is because people our age were going, well, if you're not just going to do Scooby-Doo 3 with everybody else, why are we doing it at all? And so they almost had to go, okay, well, we're not doing that, so we have to now engineer this whole new platform for this whole new audience that hopefully exists. And unfortunately,
I mean, we watched it, and there will be people going to go watch it, but is it going to blow up the way that, so Trolls 2 was released the same way? Is that what you were kind of inferring, Blake?
yeah, so Trolls 2 was like probably the first, because The Hunt and Bloodshot had theatrical releases and it came out early. Trolls was the first movie to just completely circumvent the theater release. I believe you could rent or buy it. Though somebody today told me that you could only rent it, and that's why it made money, that parents just kept renting it for their kids. But I think that's wrong. Which then led them to go, Trolls World Tour made $300 million in its first like 3 weeks, which is more than Trolls 1 made domestically in its entire run, leading Universal to go, this is how we're going to do it now. Video on demand, day and date with the movie theater, causing AMC to go, well, then we're not going to play your movies. And they started, you know, running businesses the way like rappers do rap fights, like rap battles. Rap fights makes me sound too white.
Rap fights.
Those rap fights. But then I feel like Scooby-Doo is kind of the analogous version of that, where they went, well, we have a family movie that's animated that also has a big IP connected to it. We should also be able to make money hand over fist. which is now going to be that interesting question of, well, was Trolls 2 like a flash in the pan? Or is Scooby-Doo also going to blow up and we are just going to learn, oh, you can just release at least family movies video on demand and people will buy it at a premium price and we'll call it a day?
Interesting. So they'll just be like it'll be the most elevated thing that they can make right now too. The animation is like still kind of going strong. And so they're like, all right, well, the highest budget animation we'll charge the most amount of money for. And maybe that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how long this goes on, right? I think you kind of nailed it, that where like production is at a standstill, animation can kind of happen everywhere if voice actors have booths set up, or even social distancing in voiceover booths is much easier than doing it on a live action set. Animators can animate from anywhere, and then you can make a movie with that large of a team at that high of a production value much more easily than you can say go make Black Widow under our new kind of protocols.
Right.
So it'll be interesting, especially I think Warner Brothers Animation between Mortal Kombat, Justice League, and even this have just been knocking them out of the park. A part of me thinks that they now have this opportunity to seize a market that really didn't exist until now. Or at least if it existed, it was much smaller. And now, why not start pushing that really hard? And not the way the Blacklist did it, where half their finale was animated. That was very, very strange.
I saw some pictures of that. Did that not turn out well?
It's
really low quality.
Okay, the animation's like almost like a cell shading type of stuff. It's not.
It looks like a Telltale video game.
Yeah, like a Telltale video game. But all things considered, I get like, look, that show wasn't going to be able to come back. Like this was their series finale, so they're like, look, we have to end this and put our story out. So look, we just got to do whatever we can to get this across, because these actors are not coming back when everything is said and done. So I get why they did it. It's a cool little thing, but yeah, I don't think that's a measure that an avenue most people can afford to take.
Well, because it's not scene by scene, right? So there will be scenes where, like, if Terrence and I were in it, where I would be fully animated and Terrence is live action, and it just gives this, like, B-list Who Framed Roger Rabbit vibe to the whole show.
Yeah.
Did they try to give it some story reason? Did they try to write like a little extra in there somehow that it would like make sense the world was turning into cartoons? No?
Not to my knowledge.
No.
Oh man.
They just went, people will accept it.
You'll be fine.
It's fine. We couldn't really finish it, so here it is anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a great little piece of entertainment history now, though, of just, and then this happened, and this giant show had to do their finale half cartoon.
Yeah.
But
so
I do
weird.
Back to Scoob, though, I think one of the other things that kind of to me really worked in it was the comedy. I just kept laughing in this movie at just simple things of like Shaggy picking lonely songs at the beginning, to even the fake hot blonde that Fred falls for and just keeps being like, for a mask though, pretty attractive, right, guys?
Yeah.
I was like, this is really like not inappropriate humor that often can slip into animation.
Oh, it was close, because I had so many mixed feelings in regards to the cop. There's a couple of times
they use the word F-bomb, which I'm an animation. I write cartoons. We are not allowed to do that. So they got away with something. They got away with something for sure.
I'm wondering if it's because it was a theatrical release that they're like, maybe we could play with this a little bit more than we would if we were under standard TV animation rules.
For sure.
Well, and I think there's just a history of adult audiences liking Scooby-Doo, and I'm sure they were sort of like, we can put this in here. And
well, yeah, I mean, the whole running theme of Scooby is that these guys are a bunch of stoners in their stoner mobiles. So I mean, that's always been the rolling theme that's gone with Scooby-Doo. So yes, that audience is a slightly older than what they typically play as in the actual show.
And even some of those meta jokes of, well, I just imagine this is what some middle-aged guy thinks teenagers sound like, was
when the bowling girl
great.
said that, I died laughing because that was fantastic.
And I think that's what kind of kept me from falling out of the, oh, well, we're not on a mystery and we're not in a haunted house and we're not doing the horror stuff. We are doing this big, but to Greg's point, this big bombastic superhero movie about the power of friendship and to stick with your people, which we've seen since the dawn of time. Like the humor and kind of even the character stuff kept me going. I also really appreciated this new Blue Falcon whose dad is retired, and I just kind of went, well, this is exactly what the comic books are trying to do now, is do these big updates. And oh well, the chain mail's inaccurate, and your F's a little bit smaller, and you're really not the Blue Falcon, are you? Like, I thought they could have had a bigger opportunity with the female pilot on their team, of having her actually end up being the embodiment of Blue Falcon, taking the mantle from the guy who just keeps running away.
Well, that was something that I had a problem with. She was there, but she didn't really serve any function in the story other than to just be an extra character. And I didn't know why. I mean, like, so, but here's something else I thought was really cool. Despite going like, where did she come from? She did Dee Dee Sykes is the character. She actually is another character they plucked out of an old Hanna-Barbera cartoon. She was from the Captain Caveman cartoon show, Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels. So she was like a teen angel and has precedence in the universe, and I love that aspect of it. But it just felt like they didn't actually have a function for her to be there.
It was funny. Until the very end, I completely forgotten that she was on the board until she speaks back up when Dynamite comes back up and they have their little tit for tat at the very end when they bring up the Prius. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot she is here. And part of me feels like that she's a character that they put in because ethnic wise, they didn't have anybody that looked like that character, so they're like, well, let's put a black person in here just to cover that. And I'm okay with that for look purposes, but if you're going to do it, you got to give her a little bit more meat on the bones.
Yeah, absolutely. And she needed like some, because again, she has her backstory in being connected to Captain Caveman. So when you do bring Captain Caveman into the fold, maybe there's something that she particularly thwarts him at that moment. Like there was a specific function, then it would have felt more earned, and it kind of wasn't.
Well, and you kept having this like theme of Blue Falcon wanting this hero moment and this chance to be a hero, but she just kept doing it without really needing to prove it. There just always was an urgency to her to go into battle and to go do this and to lead the charge. So I just kept waiting for it to be, because even when I was trying to get ahead of the movie, I was also like, oh man, if this was a mystery, my bet would be she's actually trying to stop Blue Falcon because he's just a goofball and she deserves the mantle, or we're going to do this passing of the torch thing and we're going to kind of land on bigger themes that are prevalent to people now about diversity, and even speaking to how franchises are changing and growing. We're constantly trying now to have all these pass the torch stories, and in doing so, punch up the voices of marginalized groups. And I was like, oh, well, here's a great opportunity to do that with a younger audience who will connect to that and then move up. But instead it was just sort of like, no, they're going to be DJs.
I have a question, because I couldn't tell if they were trying to or if they were leaning into it. In this, because of who's voicing her, is Velma Hispanic or of Spanish descent now?
She definitely was in this, because she used a couple Spanish words, like
correct,
a few times.
Right.
So they wanted to add lots of flavors, and I get it, and I don't have a problem with that inherently. It's just DD didn't really serve a function other than that was kind of upsetting.
They kind of put a lot of the mystery team on the backseat. Like I liked having this almost like, buddy cop road trip movie embedded into this big superhero movie, but we sort of just ran out of things for Fred and Velma and Daphne to do on the road. They kind of just quickly caught up, and then Fred was brainwashed, and it kind of bummed out that we just sort of stuck them in the cage and had them get kidnapped. And they really, and to their point though, that really did let them build a Shaggy and Scooby movie, which I liked. I did like having this kind of these insecurities in Shaggy that you get to see, in this sense of loneliness that never really goes away in him, and sort of these things that are instilled in them. But it kind of made me want more from everybody else, because they did do such a good job there, that I would have liked to have seen these other characters also grow and expand in the same way, especially when the kind of inciting incident is Mystery Inc. is now looking for investors and we're getting bigger. That really should be a call to arms for everybody to kind of get bigger and start really, I guess, adulting in a certain way.
Yeah. And then at the end, they own a store instead. I mean, it's fine. There's a lot of, but again, I think the real strengths of this movie are in the homages it plays to, the homages it pays to all of the old Hanna-Barbera library and stuff. There's a couple even like smaller little things where they like, you hear like, I think something's referred to as the slag hoople at one point.
Yeah.
The slag hoople, which is like Wilma Flintstone's maiden name. And then there's like, I think they say Messick Mountain, named after voice actor Don Messick.
Yeah.
And I think if there are a couple like characters, the Takamoto bowling alley, that was like, Takamoto's like the person who originally designed Scooby Doo. So there's all these just like small things and characters and bright colors and sound effects that make you go, okay, I'm watching a Hanna-Barbera thing.
Yeah.
Well, and I also appreciated that we didn't get this like Fall Out Boy Ghostbusters theme song, and that when we did get the theme, it played like the show, and we got this animated intro, and we got to see these classic villains that were in there, and it just played it the same way, which also kind of helped give this history. So I think when we got to this superhero movie, a part of me was like, well, we did all these mysteries in their history, so why not?
Yeah.
But even in doing so, and with having these other Hanna-Barbera things, I thought they did do a really good job of building a world, of really making you feel like we could now do the Flintstones, Jetsons, Johnny Quest, Jim Jam, Hong Kong Food. We could now just kind of do everybody and give them a new life in this world.
And then they could do wacky races.
All I want is wacky races.
And it'll be, but like, it's a mad world. And then you could do the Yogi's, what was it, the blimp? There's like this other one with all the core characters that they all racing each other too. I want to say Dick Dastardly is the bad guy there also. Just do all of it. I want all of it.
Yeah, right. And I mean, we could do Space Ghost Coast to Coast, and we could do Harvey Birdman Attorney at Law. I don't think that those are two things that are completely out of the realm of possibility.
Please.
But it was so funny because like right when the credits hit, me and my roommate were like, man, they did a really good job of introducing a few of these characters, but they didn't overstuff it. And then the credits was just all of Blue Falcon's new recruits are these old characters. And now the Mystery Inc. is talking to Johnny Quest. And we're doing all of this stuff. And I was like, well, don't get these are all movies I want to see, though. Don't just show them to me in credits, especially Johnny Quest.
It's amazing they haven't done a Johnny Quest movie yet. It is amazing. How has it taken so long?
I mean, if there's one weird thing that Warner Brothers does is they sit on a lot of these properties. We've gotten like 7 Batman movies, and it took them how long to make Wonder Woman and Aquaman, and we might never get a Flash movie, and it's the same thing.
Sure things.
Like it's. I feel like the Flintstones is ready for a similar reboot. I don't know if the rights are with Seth MacFarlane, if he's still making this adult version of it, or we haven't seen the Jetsons in forever, but I know Kanye West has also just been like, I'm going to make the Jetsons movie for God knows how long. So I don't know if maybe they accidentally pulled a Marvel in the thousands and sold all these rights to various insane celebrities and now are regretting it, but the time is right, because they really, even in the DC comics, they showed you that these characters can really bend, and you got this adult Flintstones comic and this great Snagglepuss and as a gay author and playwright in the 1800s and all these versions of this that you just kind of sit here and go, well, if Warner Brothers needs money and now we're stuck at home, and I know animation isn't something that you can snap your fingers and do, but a part of me is like, it's time to just announce a big Hanna-Barbera slate and just get me ready for this VOD. We're gonna do it.
Because I even think when theaters are back, I feel like the animation stuff or VODs, they should still keep that going. Like I feel like clearly they found a market. Like, look, not everything that you draw and animate should be made for theatrical releases, Warner Brothers. Snagglepuss might do better if you just do a VOD movie at home as opposed to trying to release that theatrically in a mainstream theater.
Yeah, no, these are all just surefire. Why don't we?
Snagglepuss is a $400 million movie. Snagglepuss, Huckleberry Hound. They put that out. The kids will go crazy.
I want to zoom in and I want to see the hair follicles the same way I can on Woody's costume in Pixar. And if we don't have that level of detail on Rosie the Robot, I will burn down Burbank. I know it's there. I've never drawn a picture in my life, but I'm quite confident that they can just do it with computers. I have a fundamental misunderstanding of this industry. But why would that stop me? But I think that was honestly the thing I was most excited about after, but I was sort of surprised because, I don't know, by all rhyme and reason, I felt like this movie should have been a disaster, and it wasn't.
Well, that's the thing. I think they did the they made the movie the standard Hollywood thing. Like they made the movie the executives wanted, but they also just punched it full of stuff that we were gonna like no matter what. So it all balanced out in the end, and then we were like more or less happy. It could have been way worse, but they gave us a bunch of things as fans that we could have kind of geek out over.
Yeah. Well, and they even had that Guardians of the Galaxy kind of vibe where it was a very simple script, but even like the soundtrack kept me going. Like that's another movie that's sort of just about friendship, but every other track is just a banger. And this whole movie, I was like, man, I love this.
There was a moment when I was like, I kept writing down on my notes. I was like, if this was theatrically or released, the amount of money that is spent on some of the tracks that they have in the song have to be nuts. Now, I know some of these might be under Warner Brothers like music label already, but I'm pretty sure Bombs Over Baghdad from Outkast is not. And I was like, that's got to be expensive. That's got to be a pricey number to put in the middle of your action sequence. It's nuts.
Oh, yeah. Just opening on California Love, I was like, man, that hologram of Tupac just made a lot of money.
Sure did.
Just rolling in it. But I don't know. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, for a fun animated movie, it'll be interesting to see if it pulls it off. And then I think if this works, to really see if the VOD thing goes, I think we need a big tentpole release to just say, F it, here you go, and see if that also makes mad money.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. People are saying VOD is working, but you're using animated family films as your benchmark. That's a little harder to gauge on, because yes, parents are a lot more susceptible to be like, yes, here, please shut my kid up. I will spend whatever for them to be comfortable for the next 2 hours. Versus a product that was like, I don't know if a theatrical release that adults, like if it's got another release date, but let's say all of a sudden New Mutants is going to be a VOD. I don't know how well that would do in a video on demand format.
But I think that's a perfect example of a movie that is kind of low risk enough to just put out.
It's true. It's true.
They invested too much in it, it seems. They want their money back.
Yeah.
That movie's so bad, they want their damn money back.
You are going to the theater, damn it. I don't care what happened.
I mean, talk about a movie that that's had more dates than the average person on Bumble does. It's getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
And we just keep playing that game of chasing it around. They should just make a documentary about it after of all the behind the scenes things. It could be the next Heart of Darkness.
Maisie Williams will be 30 by the time that movie actually gets released in theaters.
Yeah. So, Greg, was there anything else in the movie that you felt didn't really come together the way you wanted to, either in the animation or the characters or in any other lore?
No, I don't think so. I really think that on the whole, it like delivered all the fun stuff. It's just like it wasn't Scooby-Doo. I wanted the mystery. You kept saying like, at one point you thought Muttley, and at one point you thought it was Dee Dee, and like, guess what? It was nobody, because that's not what they were making. They weren't making a Scooby-Doo thing. They made a thing starring Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm now hoping is if we get a second one, that it is the back to basics. We're in somewhere spooky. We're somewhere haunted. There's just a man in a rubber mask. But I get it, right? I mean, we even did like Zombie Island back in the day, and that was the first like, oh, and now they're real monsters, and it's a dip. But that was at least still monsters, right? It was this kind of got away from any horror element, the same way like, I don't know, the Dark Universe stopped trying to make scary things and was like, what if everything was action? And you're like, well, that's not. You got to kind of stay in the lane here a little bit, but. I mean, if we can make other Hanna-Barbera properties, is there like a big property that you'd want to see for both of you from Hanna-Barbera if they did this, if they keep going
In a feature form.
in feature form?
You know, it's so funny because the Hanna-Barbera properties, the characters, like they all were kind of one note when we were kids. A lot of them were just kind of Bugs Bunny, but he was, you know, Huckleberry Hound's kind of a sleepy Southern drawl Bugs Bunny, or you know, you look at Top Cat and he's just kind of like a wisecracking cat guy, and they all have like one. Snagglepuss is theatrical, and otherwise he's Bugs Bunny, and a lot of them kind of have that samey feel. And then the same thing with Scooby Doo, right? They replicated that 7 or 8 or 10 times, and they made Jabberjaw, and they made uh, Speed Buggy, and they made the Funky Phantom, and they're all that kind of thing. So it's hard to say that Hanna Barbera's oldest properties have the legs to be like a feature film. But I think all of that stuff that's in the 90s era, the Cartoon Network era, the Dexter's Lab and the Powerpuff Girls, I think that stuff has a lot more legs to be the kind of feature blockbuster movie.
Are those Hanna-Barbera too? I always just kind of put those under like a different Cartoon Network label.
I was under the impression they were produced by Hanna-Barbera.
Okay.
Let me confirm that just in case I'm totally wrong. But
Because then you've cracked open the whole door, and I'm like, well, then I just want Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Lab. We don't even need to go back into the 70s now.
Yeah, production company, Hanna-Barbera Cartoons, and Cartoon Network Studios.
All right, well then that's what I want.
Yeah. I want Dial M for Monkey. You're going to do the superheroes? Go to your best superheroes. Go to the Justice Friends. We want major.
That would be so great.
That would be fun. That would be fun.
Or even just do those characters, because that was always the like 10-minute short at the end, if I remember right, or like however it wasn't a full 30 minutes. I don't know why that wouldn't be a like Pixar intro short before the Dexter's Lab, and you could have this fun 20-minute crazy romp and then do that. But
and they'll sell Hostess fruit pies. It's great.
Now you've said, I'm like, oh well, that's it, right? I mean, otherwise it's Johnny Quest. I think that's the other
Or
one.
Johnny Quest.
Yeah, Johnny Quest is who I would go for. Blake, I don't know if you've seen it, but apparently this Scoob charted higher and faster than the Trolls War tour release, so it is #1 and higher. The full numbers aren't out, but it's doing better than Trolls World Tour was at the time of its.
Well, that at least makes me happy, because I would rather Scooby-Doo beat Trolls than live in a world where I'm going to have to go, man, 2020 was weird. The two highest grossing movies were Trolls World Tour and Call of the Wild.
Oh, man, Scoob.
Don't want to do it.
Yeah.
We did it. Rare.
All right, well, there we go. We did that. So then the door's open to me. Now we can get Hong Kong Phooey and Space Ghost and Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law. That's the HBO Max show. It's Harvey Birdman.
Yes.
Kevin Smith gets to do that one.
Oh my God!
Seth Rogen, you know, that'll be what happens.
I would love a late night HBO Max that was either him or Space Ghost. I would subscribe just for that.
For just that.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to do our show for today. As always, you can leave us a review on iTunes and Spotify and Google Play and all those fun places. You can follow the show at facebook.com/group/Hollywood Already Did It, or on Twitter at HollywoodADI. I'm at, as always, Blake, and Terrence is at Terrence Tatum. And Greg, where can people find you, and what stuff are you working on these days?
Sure. Well, I'm working on this project, or I just released this project recently called Animation Under Lockdown. My writing partner, Alan Denton, and I read through one of our old scripts with a number of talented voice actors that we worked with on a number of shows. Worked with Cindy Robinson, Mike Pollock. I'm just going to plug them all. And the other people, shoot, I'm doing a terrible job. Cut that part. Okay, here we go. So my writing partner, Alan Denton, and I teamed up with a bunch of voice actors, and we read through an old pilot script of ours. We did it on Zoom. We threw it online, and it's a thing we did. So check that out. It's on YouTube. Search for that. And then I also work on the D Plus Cast. It's kind of a Disney Plus focused podcast. We talk about what's happening in the world of streaming and entertainment. And then follow me on Twitter at It's Greg Hahn. That's it. I've got more, but you know what? You've heard enough.
It's all about the Food Fighters toys, man. That's what the people
All
really
right,
want.
so go to Instagram.com. It's Greg's Toys. It's Food Fighters, Muscle, Battle
Look, man,
Beasts,
we're gonna make
Rock
that movie we
Lords.
talked about on How Do You Figure. I want this Food Fighters pitch that we did.
It's happening.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us digitally, and we will see everybody next time.
Later.
Bye.